Okay, don't worry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. We're here this afternoon for a work session, and our discussion item is Internal Climate Action Resilience and Education Plan, or I.C.A.R.E. update. I'm Kristen Stevens, Chair Pro Tem of the Board of County Commissioners, and with me is my colleague, Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally. We also have our County Manager, Lorinda Volker, here. Heidi Pruis is here, our Sustainability and Climate Manager. Ken Cooper, our Facilities Director. And I think that Abby Stapleton from the Office of Sustainability and Climate will kick things off, and we'll have folks introduce themselves as they speak. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Oh, and I will say Commissioner Kafalis might be joining us a little bit later. But he's at another meeting, I think, with some residents, so.
Hi, I'm Abby Stapleton, Sustainability Program Coordinator here with Larimer County, and I'm just going to go ahead and dive into the plan and a little bit of background information on it first. So, as Commissioner Stevens said, it's the Internal Climate Action Resilience and Education Plan, and we refer to it as I.C.A.R.E. This plan was adopted in 2022, so it's about 2 years old now. And it's not a static plan, so we do add goals occasionally and we update our actions. And it's used to address the sustainability within our operations as an entity. So this is internal county operations and the way that we do things here at the county. There is an external plan, Climate Smart Future Ready, that was just launched in March. So an update kind of relating to that plan with I.C.A.R.E. is we recently kind of reevaluated how our focus areas in I.C.A.R.E. align with Climate Smart to just make it more digestible for just sharing it out. So we had a Wellbeing and Resilience tab in our I.C.A.R.E. plan, but we recently took that one out and kind of redistributed those goals. And we now have a Unifying Solutions focus area, which is aligned with Climate Smart Future Ready. And I will be talking about those kind of large 4 focus areas as we go through the plan. And then I'm going to move on to another newer portion of this plan that was updated this year. So we now have a different visual way to kind of see how our goal progress statuses are. And those are on track, emerging, and needs attention. And the goals in this plan are categorized in this way to provide a clear understanding of their progress in 2024. And just a quick overview of what those 3 categories are, as you'll see in the next slides, that each goal kind of has a way that it's being shown where it's at. So on track is proceeding as planned, meeting those expectations and deadlines. Emerging is that it's showing progress, but it might have some uncertainty or it's waiting on something else, but it's still continuing along pretty well. And then needs attention is maybe it's temporarily paused, waiting on preliminary steps from another action, or maybe it just doesn't have the necessary resources or staff. And then before we move on to the updates on the goals, I wanted to say that this whole plan is a big team effort. So several departments are involved in the goals, and there's many members that are here today to speak more about their work if needed. I'll try to answer questions as best as possible, but they definitely know a little bit more about the updates that I'm going to be sharing. And this whole plan and this presentation is just a way to showcase how all of the departments are working together on sustainability. And it helps tie, it might seem a little bit random at time how some of the goals go together, but it just ties everything together that different departments are working on. So the goals are going to be shown in a dark reddish brown color, and then the actions are underneath with bullet points, and then I'll be giving updates on most of those actions. So the first focus area is unifying solutions. The goal at the top here is actually new as of about a month ago. We want to implement all climate sustainability, climate, environmental stewardship, and sustainability policy areas by 2030. So this policy was adopted last year, and we want to make county employees more aware of this policy and then also look at other county policies to see how they can align with this one. And another newer goal is to fund greater than 90% of all high priority projects ranked by our team annually. This goal was is kind of based off of the way we rank our projects. So each year we have several projects that we would love to put forward, but we know we need to kind of prioritize which ones go for the commissioners for funding. So I do have like a little slide later to talk about how we prioritize those projects and how it brings equity into our work. Yep.
Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Abby, to interrupt your flow. We're talking budget already. Will you give some information coming up about the amount or what that looks like? Because that, it'd be nice to have that seed plan in the back of my head or that information as we go into, because we're basically talking as a board budget almost every week, so it'd be nice just to have that. But if it's going to come, that'd be great, but if you have some ideas, maybe just not to stop you, but if we could get some ideas of the range, like are we talking $500,000, million? I mean, that's kind of substantial. So, I'm just trying to get a ballpark if you have some ideas for full, because I see fund greater than 90%. That sounds wonderful, but I'm wondering how much that costs. So,
I think our county manager has some.
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so I will say that one of the requests that comes in the budget will be these projects, and they'll be labeled in this way. So there'll be a group of them that we can look at. I think the team knows well that we can't ask for everything at once, so
Okay.
They're prioritizing what they ask for each year, and that will be part of your consideration.
Okay, thank you. I just, it's a very high priority and value for us, but it also, I realize we don't have magic wand. I wish we do, but I'm sorry to interrupt your flow, but for me, that's already kind of something I had to ask because it was in my head like, well, what are we thinking? How much is that? And so, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Heidi Pruis, Climate and Sustainability Manager. I just will mention to you that this 90% goal is based off of what we were able to do last year.
Okay.
And this prioritization process that Abby will go through here in a couple of slides highlights that prioritization that becomes a service area proposal.
Okay.
That you see in departments, and as Lorenda mentioned, is noted there. So the goal is based off of what we've previously done, and hopefully that prioritization, when we get to that point, will help you.
Thank you all. Appreciate your patience as my question, and thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem, for allowing me the question.
Yeah, so relating to this 90% goal, we looked at last year too to make this goal, like Heidi was saying, and we put forward 5 projects last year and all of them were funded. So we would say that last year 100% were funded. Yep. And we are still looking through the sheet for this year, and our team's going to be reviewing it next week. So I don't have, like even an estimate for how much that we're going to be asking for this year, but that will be coming in service proposals. And then moving on to the third goal on the slide, we do have a goal to see a 10% reduction in ozone levels monitored at our county monitoring stations. And as you've been updated before, we have 2 that the county's putting in, 1 in Timnath, and that one might be running already. My last update was that it was going to be up and going in July to see some of the ozone season results. And then the other one is going to be in West Loveland, and that one should be active by September. And then we were participating in a residential landscaping equipment program last summer with the Regional Air Quality Council. And since last summer, the state has taken over that program. So the county has switched to kind of having our own program and our own dollars that we award. And that is going to be for commercial landscaping actually this year. So Environmental Health has an intern that's working on a pilot program for commercial landscaping, and I think they're kind of starting it now and this fall, so those landscaping companies will be able to get some rebates and good discounts on landscaping equipment. And then also related to this goal is something that's really exciting for our county. Our Natural Resources Department applied to a mow down pollution program grant and received $23,000 to replace 19 pieces of their gas-powered lawn equipment last year. So they're operating those electric equipment pieces this summer, and that includes things like mowers, chainsaws, pruners, and weed whips. So big congrats to Natural Resources for doing that work and kind of testing it out for the county as we move forward with some electrification work.
Can I ask a question regarding that? And maybe Natural Resources can answer, do you see any loss of, I mean, are they adequate? Is the equipment adequate? Do you feel like it holds a charge long enough? Do you have trouble charging in the field? I mean, some of the complaints that, people have maybe had is that they're not as functional as gas-powered equipment. So what do you say after using this equipment?
I unfortunately don't get a chance to use them firsthand, so, though I wish I did. One of the concerns that we had going into it was the charge efficiency, and so a lot of the initial purchase was for extra batteries. And so we planned for that. And so I've not heard from our field staff any concerns about running out of energy or running out of batteries, or concerns about the equipment as well. And the other thing I like about them is they're quiet. So going into campgrounds, even our staff, the protective gear that we need changes because the noise just isn't there. So far, very successful. In fact, our longer goals are to replace the remaining equipment we have.
And maybe lighter to carry, right?
In some cases, yeah, the batteries are
Yeah, I
heavy, but
guess
they're
the
designed in a
batteries can be
way.
heavy.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so that brings us to our next focus area, which is the built environment, waste, and economy. And this first goal here, I don't really have any new updates on it. Facilities presented the main update a couple weeks ago, and that was on the Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services building. And that presentation was about having those options for that fully electric building or geothermal compared to kind of that system that we would typically do in our new buildings. So that was put up for consideration, and it seems like the commissioners were in support of that. So that's the main update there with reducing our greenhouse gas emissions at our county facilities.
Can I add a quick item to that? I think we mentioned this a little bit, a couple weeks ago, but the 62% is a very big goal, of course, right? And like Abby mentioned, the good news is that we have a building now that'll be coming online potentially, in the next 2 years. With emergency services, that would be much less reliant on changes, in the grid and so on, because it's geothermal and still full electrification. The rest of that goal really is going to be reliant on our electrical providers. The grid is going to change, by 2030. They have goals that are in place, PVREA, Platte River, and so on. And so we're going to be tracking that, and it may be adjusted based on the success that they have, community-wide. But for now, we're tracking it. We're extrapolating the numbers based on their expected improvements. If those don't, come to fruition, then we'll have to scale that back some. So, and I think that's pretty clear, but I wanted to confirm that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ken. With another kind of action within this facilities goal is we kind of put the solar app and Sol Smart in this one as well. And solar app, we had a lot of interest in it, but our county information technology is kind of updating our permitting process right now online. And so it doesn't really make sense to add in the solar app, which is a different system than we would have until we get ours updated. So that's kind of paused right now. And then Sol Smart, which is a national designation program to recognize different municipalities or counties for encouraging solar growth. We are currently working towards a silver designation for that program right now. Then moving on to some of the landfill and solid waste actions here. We would love to reduce our methane from our landfill 18% by 2026. So part of the way that we plan to do that is to increase our methane capture system at the landfill. Right now, 30% of the landfill is covered with that system. And in order to expand that, we need to retain the gas rates. The county currently does not have those right now. So once we get those back, then we'll be able to expand it 90% of the landfill while it's still in its final years of operation. We can only do 90% right now, but that should help us get to this 18%. Because instead of flaring that methane that's captured, we'll have enough with that 90% to be able to either use it for renewable natural gas for our large hauling trucks or connect it to a gas line. So right now we can't really do much with it besides flaring it because we just don't have enough of it. And then regarding these last two actions on here with biochar and material diversion, Solid Waste knows right now that biochar is seeking permits to accept painted or treated wood. So we are kind of keeping up with that to see if that's something that we could also work with. And then they're involved in an advisory team for the woody biomass study and strategy, which OEM is also working on. So Solid Waste has a lot of projects going on, and it's exciting work.
Any questions, Commissioner?
Thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem. So I'm very well aware of that study. I'm actually been following it very closely. And so I'm wondering, we really, that facility that you're talking about is outside, just right outside of Larimer County, but it's kind of in the Berthoud area. Is that the one you're talking about that's getting the new licensing, or is there somewhere else that you're discussing?
Hi, my name is Alex G. I'm a project manager for the Larimer County Solid Waste Department. And Biochar Now is a company located in Berthoud, and they are looking to expand to another 2 or 3 more facilities, all which would be either in Weld County or Boulder County, to start processing that treated wood.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. And I know that the study is looking to wrap up this fall, which will have some really great information for a lot of different groups, not only for Larimer County, but I know the Forest South Council that I sit on and others are very interested in the result of this, because these are ongoing conversations we've had for the last 3 years. And so I think this will be really a great information with that grant and all the partners to help us really have a little more guidance on what we can do to kind of address this issue. So I'm really excited to see how that turns out. But thanks for that information, because I was wondering I was hoping they might have one here in Larimer, but oh well. So thank you.
Okay, so the last goal in this built environment, waste, and economy focus area is some things that we've been working on with our sustainable operating and purchasing supplies. We've been working with Amazon and Office Depot, the representatives that we have through the county with those companies, to try to find ways that we can kind of encourage employees to buy sustainably without kind of mandating it. So with Amazon, they already have a Climate Pledge friendly product program. So you're able to, sort that yourself on their website. But something that you can add as an Amazon business account holder is a organization highlighted bar. So if you have a business account through Larimer County, and not all employees do, just the ones I think that have P cards and would like one, if you search for an item, there'll be kind of a highlight bar at the top that will say organization highlighted, and people can kind of see those top choices for Climate Pledge friendly items, and then they can continue to scroll down for any other items. There's no forcing anyone to buy any sustainable products, but they are located at the top now so employees can easily find those. And it's kind of a similar program with Office Depot, but it's set up a little bit differently. You can still filter eco-friendly options on Office Depot, and it doesn't have that highlighted bar at the top, but instead when you pick an item that you would like to purchase, when you go to your cart, it will show alternative options, and it will give you the price and the quantity, and you can kind of compare right there if you'd rather just have that eco-friendly option instead, and you can swap it out in your cart. And the Amazon program started last June, and then the Office Depot program we started in August. And then we also offered trainings to P-card holders that had Amazon and Office Depot accounts last December, and our Amazon representative was there to kind of share his side in person. So that was really, really fun to have him there and just explain that. And then I do want to show this website quickly. This is on our B-board page. It just kind of shows, it shows a couple different items on here, one of them being why we're encouraging sustainable office supply purchasing, which is, we talk about the internal climate plan. We talk about general purchasing considerations, which might be try to have pitchers of water at meetings instead, or buy reusable things like batteries, or maybe rent items if you don't need them multiple times. And then it goes through that Climate Pledge friendly and Office Depot Greener Office programs for employees.
Madam Chair Pro Tem.
Oh, yes, Commissioner, please go.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem. And Abby, this is great. And I just want to say thank you to the staff. This has already been happening. I've seen as a commissioner being a liaison, and I want to give a special kudos and shout out to DNR, Department of Natural Resources, and Dalen Figgs and his wonderful team, because we've been having that for months with our OLAB meeting Open Lands Advisory Board meeting where we're using pitchers and reusable cups and plates and napkins and trying to get away from, single-use items. And so I've already seen that experience as a commissioner, and it's just, I know that takes a little extra effort, planning and organization, and I just want to say thank you to all employees and all the folks who do the behind-the-scene work to organize that and have that set up, because I know it takes a little extra time, but it has seen it's noticed, it's a lot of gratitude, because I know this is kind of a shift in the long run. It's going to take a little focus, and I think it will become second nature. But I just want to tell you that I noticed it. I'm grateful, and I just appreciate you guys all doing this together. And special shout out to DNR. And it's really proud to see that work happening. So thank you.
Yes, I've had a few conversations with some of Dalen's staff about the work they're doing and kind of how we can try to expand that across the county and maybe make a office gathering, kind of a brochure or something to give people tips on ways to do that, because it's like hard for the first few times you do it, but once your staff gets used to it, then it's not as big of a change.
And I'm sorry, Madam Chair, and here I am drinking a single use, but I had no other choice. So, but I'm going to have to remember to bring my reusable cup next time. So that's on me. So I just want to say here, I'm talking about it, and I know this is in front of me. So I'm trying to practice what I preach as well. So just noting that for anyone watching. Thank you.
So another action underneath the, these sustainable operating office supplies is relating to our request for proposals. So I worked with purchasing staff to kind of come up with a couple different ways that we could try to get some of this into RFPs, because it's a lot more dollar amount per proposal. So we have different questions in there for when a customer or an employee reaches out to purchasing to start an RFP process. They will get information about adding sustainable evaluation criteria to that proposal, and it's portrayed as very optional. No one needs to be putting these evaluation criteria in there, but we do give them questions laid out already, so it's kind of easy for them to pick which ones align, whether they're doing a service or they're buying products. And those are about maybe the contractor incorporating sustainability and social equity into its everyday business practices, or how do they promote resource efficiency at their business. So then those can be later evaluated by the team. And just over the 6-month period that we've offered these evaluation criteria, 13 out of the 15 RFPs, or 87%, have opted to include these in their proposals. So that's really showing that employees are they do care about asking these questions to the vendors and the contractors, and they're curious kind of how different companies stack up against each other when they're answering these questions. So our third focus area is mobility, delivery of goods, and internet services. The goal here is about regional paved trails and our widened shoulders. With the widened shoulders part, we did add 4.4 miles of widened shoulders to our existing 63 miles in 2023. And then with regional paved trails, there have not been any added in the last year, but they are constructing the 1.5 mile connector from River Bluffs to I-25 right now. So that one will be an update for next year. And then they are studying a trail connecting Wellington to the northeast Fort Collins region. I believe that's Box Elder. So that one's being looked into as another way to add more trails to our area. And then moving on to EV chargers. The county plans to have 3 charging stations located at county property by the end of this year or early 2025, depending on how the supply chain pieces go. And as a reminder, these locations are 200 West Oak, Carter Lake Admin Building, and the Horsetooth Reservoir Information Center. So that's actively being pursued right now and in process. And then we plan to have 4 additional chargers installed at the new Fleet campus this fall too. And then we are continuing to look for funding for more chargers, because it's definitely a community need, and we're hoping to install more at county properties, and then also more at just helping businesses install them as well. So the next goal here is about kind of what our fleet is doing here, especially relating to our light-duty vehicles. We have a goal to increase our miles per gallon of these vehicles, and we increased it to 14.4 miles per gallon last year, which is a 3.2% increase from the 2022 baseline. So that's really exciting that we're getting more vehicles in that have higher MPG. And I will note that that does not include the sheriff's office light duty units. And then another piece of this goal is alternative fuel vehicles. So last year, we had a 2% rise in those vehicles that we have here in our fleet, which was 6 hybrid and 1 electric vehicle were added to our fleet last year, and that's how we got that 2% rise. And then another part of just getting the miles per gallon up at the county is talking to different departments about having electric vehicles as some of their pull vehicles for their department. So Fleet has been has had a few conversations with departments about that, and there are some departments that are really interested in a fleet vehicle. But a little bit of a stall on that is just the charging stations again. So, no one wants to have an EV but not have a permanent place that they know they can charge it. So as we kind of get more chargers at our county property and more around the cities, I think that will help departments be a little bit more comfortable with having an electric vehicle. And then we also had a EV essentials training and an EV ride and drive offered to employees. And that was kind of put on by our employee sustainability awareness team, but with help from Fleet on how to kind of advertise that. And that was just for employees. So there was a virtual one, and then you could come to a ride and drive and test that out. And then also something Fleet's been doing is they added these little symbols down here on the bottom left to their catalog that they have. So when you go to look through the type of vehicles that you could get, this is an example of one it's a truck, and then it will show down here that there's a hybrid and electric option. So that's a good visual cue that Fleet's added to let people know that, and they might not be necessarily looking for that, but it might kind of bring up interest. So I think that is all I have to say about that. I think we want to get, we plan to get new EVs in our fleet this year with those 4 charging stations that they're adding to the fleet campus, but that also depends on supply chain and grants and things like that. With our reduced vehicle miles traveled by employees, that's talking about our commute. So how do our employees get to work? What's their commute like? And we only know right now the baseline for mandatory remote workers. We don't know how many people are working from home voluntarily and how many days a week they're doing that, which would affect, how many miles our employees are traveling to work those 5 days a week. So Human Resources has a form and an application created for that, but they don't have enough staff right now to push that out and to get all of those applications filled out. So that's just on pause right now, which is why it has that needs attention status right there. And then we have the Guaranteed Ride Home program that was launched last fall. I think the big thing with this program is just getting the word out to employees that it exists, that if they take alternative transportation to work and there's an emergency, their child is sick, their babysitter couldn't come, they need to go home right away, they can get 2 rides a year reimbursed by the county to take like an Uber home or something, like if they rode their bike or they walked. So we're hoping to make that program just a little bit more known.
Do you have any questions, Commissioner? I have a question. So, could we, we're right on the especially at this office, we are literally right on the max line. It's really easy to take it. And so I don't know how many people do it, and of course we might have to evaluate that, but I'm thinking about like some kind of competition or like, if you took it, a certain amount of days a week, could you get, could we create some excitement around using public transportation? Because it's also free right now. And it has been since COVID for all bus lines in Fort Collins. And so it is a really good option. I know it doesn't work for everyone, but, could it be public transportation or your bike or your, electric scooter or whatever? We could combine something, but could we have something where I think that the MPO does that, and maybe we could piggyback on something that they're looking at doing. But I just feel like, how do we get excitement around this and get people to understand how important this is and to play, to help us get to those numbers?
Yeah, and our sustainability awareness team has talked about some of these competitions before, or just ways that the county could incentivize more alternative transportation. We did have a training last fall on how to use the bus, and we had like people could come and like ride the bus. So we had maybe like 6 or 7 employees come, and so there was like a kind of like guide on the bus showing like how to get on, how to get off, how to like find your route, how to use the app. So I think that kind of a thing is helpful for the education piece, but I do understand like some of that healthy competition or like maybe rewarding process is a little bit better. I think with them taking with people taking alternative transportation, it's hard because some employees wouldn't be able to participate because they live, you know, in Greeley and like they can't ride the bus, so then they feel like left out of the competition. I think that's where our team finds it hard to like do things for certain groups of people. But there are like other things that we're talking about doing. So, and I don't know too many people that ride the bus, honestly. I think from my Clean Commuter series, I think that it's a lot of biking, which is exciting. But I like the idea, and I'll bring it to the team.
Yeah, and I guess that's true if people live in outlying areas. Although if you like lived in Loveland, for example, you could put your car at the South Transit Center and take the MAX all the way in, and that would be some savings of, right? And so there could be sort of hybrid options of that, or carpooling, or you know, maybe thinking about working remotely. And so, I mean, there might be a way to bring everybody in, or maybe they could, you know, if they do live, let's say in Weld County, maybe they could show that maybe they didn't do it to work, but if they could prove that they did it, you know, in their community when they were running errands or something like that, that they could still, I don't know, just a way to kind of loop people in to understand, you know, what that might look like. And I like the idea of incentivizing, whether it's like a free pizza or a taco or something like that, you know. But I just thought it might be a way to kind of remind people, because I know the library has programs where they kind of do, like, if you bike to the library, you get like a check mark on your summer reading program and things like that. So there's a lot of people that are trying to encourage that. So I guess I think there's a way we could loop in people who live in a different space to kind of figure that out. Anyway, just an idea.
Yeah, thank you. Our last focus area here is natural environment, water, and agriculture. So we have a water reduction plan here at the county, and that has to do with the landscaping that facilities manages. So they have a series of projects they've been working on for several years, and then more to come in the future. Last year, there were 5 projects completed, and then there's 4 projects underway for this year. And those don't always have to do with the landscaping themselves, like the plants. Sometimes there's sprinkler upgrades, or the way the water runs off, like the different way the things are sloped, or maybe the tree, replacing trees, or of course like the low water needing plants. So I worked with facilities on getting a baseline, and a lot of the goals in this plan have a 2022 baseline, but for irrigation we decided to do an average of 2021 through 2023, because like 2023 was a very wet year, so we're going to be using different amounts of water than the other 2 years, so we wanted to do an average. And then when we go to compare that, we'll compare 2024 through 2027, or 2023 through 2026. I apologize for that. And so our baseline for the water that we use for irrigation is 8,229,572 gallons, which is a lot of water, but I'm excited to have the number now, so we know what we're comparing against in 4 or 5 years.
Madam Chair, may I ask to have that number repeated again, just like curious?
What's that?
Hey, can I have ask her to repeat the number again, please?
Yeah, can you repeat the number, please?
Yep, sure. 8,229,572 gallons.
A year?
Yes. At our, not all the county facilities, just the ones that our facilities manages. So like natural resources are separate. They do different things with their landscaping. And so are some of like the road and bridge buildings. So I think this is about, I want to say 11 or 12 different buildings.
Okay.
Yep, a lot of the ones in Fort Collins, in Loveland. And some of our buildings don't have any landscaping too. But if you think of the Midpoint area, I mean, we own a lot of land there. There's a lot of turf still. They are doing a lot of projects there, though, to reduce that turf. But
So if I might clarify, so I just want to understand, this is just the gallons of irrigating and watering the landscape, or is this the whole building?
Irrigation only. So we took the winter quarterly averages from December through February, and then we subtracted that from the summer months to know approximately how much we're using in the summer months. This is definitely an average number, but we don't have water taps for each of our buildings, so there's no way to know exactly how much we use because they're on the same line as our water use in our buildings.
Oh, okay, so that's over 11 buildings, and that's just for irrigation. I just want to make sure I'm understanding, that's a lot of water for irrigation, that's stunning, so.
I know it sounds like a lot, but I think that our facilities team manages it really well. They have everything on timers.
Yeah, no.
And all the projects are going to be, I'm hoping they show a lot of the work that Newland has been working on in facilities.
So, Madam Chair, may I just ask real quick? So Ken, your team has done a phenomenal job, and I really actually enjoy the new area over here east of the building, and it's very lovely. And I always think about this too, is we're downtown, the farmer's market. I mean, this is also spaces the public use. And it just, I don't know, I think it's a great look for the county, but also it shows our commitment by changing to this zero-scaping. So I have a couple of questions. First question, have we had any input or feedback from the public that you know of from the farmer's market or anything since we've done this change here at the campus, at the Administrative Services Building? And secondly, do you have any idea if already with this, I think it's been a year, not even, that we've made this change, that you've seen a decrease in water use from last year? And I know it was a wet year, and I know it's hard, but just any indication that it's already just here at this facility making a change?
Yeah, the second question, the short answer is yes. We've seen, the improvement. It was across a 5-year window that we were tracking it, and so far we're seeing the improvement that we expected. So that's good news. The other is more anecdotal. We haven't done anything to kind of research or ask specifically of the public, for what do you think? But we certainly get lots of neat comments from staff, and some visitors, I think, have shared things. We'll see things pop through on some comments that are made, for instance, with the clerk's office. They do the kudos report. And so sometimes those folks will come in for, to meet with, the clerk's office and mention, that project, here at our building. So, yeah, I think that's the two questions you had.
So if I might, Madam Chair, so when you say a difference, are we seeing, I don't know exact number, but significant, like a 5%, 10%, or any kind of idea of the decrease?
Yeah, the 5-year window was in the ballpark of 150,000 gallons reduced on this project. Am I right? And so that's what I mentioned in terms of what we're tracking. The improvement is close enough to say that we're on target with that. So
Excellent. Well, I just want to just say well done. Just tremendous job, and it was a long time coming. And I personally just love the flowers are popping right now, and for me, walking between meetings or walking back and forth, it just kind of gives me a little up. Just to take a moment and literally smell the flowers and look at them is just kind of a nice uplift. And
thank you.
And I just want to say thank you very much for the work
thank
there.
you. Yeah, one real tricky thing, and we've talked about it, I think, in previous meetings with the commissioners, is on new projects. We're doing more and more to put in native grasses and things like that. Loveland, the behavioral health facility. We haven't gotten the real negativity out of behavioral health yet, but it's really tough to get those plants to take hold on the front end. Takes 2 years-ish, to get going on that. Dalen's staff has been really helpful. Casey Cisneros is tied into several of our projects that way. We even had some recent interaction with folks in Livermore, because that's been a special challenge up there. Obviously, almost no water. And so the weeds tend to flourish and the native grasses don't for periods of time. So sometimes it's a bit of a trick, to be excited about it on the front end, because right away it doesn't look as good as it will 2 or 3 years down the road. But I'm not trying to be a wet blanket, but at the same time, it's sort of the reality of it. So those are tough. But overall, these kind of smaller scale, targeted pieces are much easier to manage, and really excited about that. Newland's done a terrific job to get those on target, so.
Well, I express my gratitude to them, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Just exemplary work as you do such a phenomenal job maintaining our facilities, and I just wanted to take special note that I know there's a commented to me, but I also enjoy it, so I just want to
Yeah,
say
thank you very much.
Abby, I want to do a time check. Are we okay on time still, or we still got quite a bit to go through?
I think that we're doing pretty good. We should have about 10 minutes or so at the end for questions.
Thank you.
Okay, and then just to wrap that water reduction piece up, I just wanted to mention, if folks don't know the project that's pictured here, it's on the east side of the 200 West Oak admin building. That turf was removed and replaced with kind of a rose garden and a little path and some different trees in there. So that's a really, very public-facing project, like we were saying. And then kind of moving on to some of the natural resources goals that we have in here. We have a goal to have our county open space not have a lot of hard infrastructure on it. So we want to keep that number below 5% of the property area. So the only update with that right now is just that the Chimney Hollow open space is going to be assessed in the coming year to determine what the development footprint on that is. But right now, we just have a 3.5% of our open lands are developed. So very small percent have, like sidewalks or like buildings on them. And then we also have a pretty far out goal here for 2043 with conserving a certain number of acres of open space land. The update on this would be that last year that Our Lands, Our Future survey was completed by the public, and that's going to help inform that open space master plan. And of course, that master plan is helping us get to that goal. And then we have a last goal here. So this is goal number 14, and this one addresses hazard mitigation and disaster avoidance. And there's a couple different pieces under this goal. One of those is the Office of Emergency Management Community Mitigation Grant that they've been doing, I think, for 2 years now. And we had $100,000 awarded for that 2024 cycle. So that's OEM giving that $100,000 to different community projects. And those projects are underway, and you can find those on emergency management website, what partners in the community that they're helping with those dollars. And then we have an equity inclusion plan that Office of Emergency Management runs, and they have it on a 2-year cycle. So the one for this year through 2026 was just adopted, and they're working on that. And they will be completing a community resilience survey later in the summer to gather input on part of this plan for the year 2024. And then kind of relating to that hazard mitigation and disaster avoidance piece, we still have 2 county structures in the 500-year floodplain. And the Fleet campus is going to be moved out this fall, though. And then that emergency services for the sheriff's office hopefully will be out of their floodplain by 2025 or 2026, depending on when we can get that building constructed. And then lastly here, we have Larimer Connects hubs. And those are physical locations typically that build community resilience in a lot of our rural parts of our county. Some of them have mitigation supplies for emergencies, and they're typically at like schools or community recreation centers. And it's a way for community members to get together and share information in emergencies and throughout the year to be prepared for emergencies. So with those, we had three new ones established last year, so we now have a total of 21 in the county.
Yeah, Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, and I'm working on getting 1 or 2 more of those to that. So I know we're kind of leading the country on that. I know we're kind of an exemplar. People look at how we're doing this because it's really important. But this is stuff I live and breathe every week about wildfire mitigation and things. And so I'm curious, when we talked about the priorities and funding 90%, I'm assuming the mitigation grant, 'cause that's a $100,000 grant. I mean, we could easily do 200,000. We need $4 billion for the state to mitigate all the land that we need to do across the state. So I'm hoping that number will be included in the projects that your total of the 90% priority projects, or is that kind of since it's under one specific, it's under OEM and under the commissioners, is it included in that number, or is that going to be separate?
I believe the Office of Emergency Management has that separately in their budget. It's related to I.C.A.R.E, but I believe that we didn't put that in there last year. Heidi, do you remember?
Yeah, the grants themselves are not included in the budgets that we promote to you for service area projects. So they are calculated separately, and we are trying to work with all of our teams across both I.C.A.R.E and Climate Smart to capture those grant dollars so that when I report back out to you for Climate Smart, that we know community-wide, the grant dollars versus what it is we're expending on some of the projects. So that project, to give you that information, is ongoing, but it's not included in our service proposals. The Office of Emergency Management, among the other departments here, are putting projects in those service proposals that are more leading the way towards what needs to be implemented in addition to what we're already doing now. So what you'll see next year is not going to be in the current year's budget proposals will not be what's currently being implemented. There'll be new programs.
And that would be the same thing as the Larimer Connects hubs, because I know they give out grants to, and part of those grants with the community mitigation grant is also the social connection piece that's required.
That's right.
Part of that grant. And so those are kind of also separate funds and really important community building, and there's a reason for it, and the science and data driven, but
Yes.
just so all the public listening, this is really important piece for the success of this. So those are, so I just want to understand those are two separate funds. Those are not included in the.
In the new proposals that will come to you this next year, they aren't included on
Okay.
that. They'll be our separate grant tracking.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'm sorry again to ask so many questions, but my head's really excited about all this, and my head's just spinning with questions, so thank you.
Okay, so that's kind of the end of our updates on the goals and the statuses. But I wanted to go back to what we talked about at the beginning with that project prioritization, so how the team is doing that. So this slide shows a simple breakdown of how our team goes through that process. And last year was the first year that we used this. So the way it works is that a team member will say that they have a project they want to put forward. They will score it based on these 5 kind of criteria themselves, and then our team will all get together and kind of go over and kind of to have a discussion on why someone scored something how they did. So it is a little bit subjective because you're scoring your own project, but with the team, kind of everyone looking at it together, then we can see which projects kind of come to the top. And this is one way that we try to ensure that there's equity considered in our programs, partly because the team with many different departments looking at it is part of that equity. And then also the pieces that they're reviewing in the sheet also have equity involved. So then, like Heidi said at the very beginning, if a project's highly scored and the team says, yes, let's put this one forward, then they bring that service proposal request to their department and is included in the next year's budget ask. So these scores are weighted. So depending on which one here, that they have different scores, and that's kind of how we make sure that we're trying to keep that playing field level. So one of the first things we look at is how much is this project going to achieve the goal. So there's a different point system there, and if the goal, if the project is going to completely achieve your goal, then that would be all the points. If it's only going to do 10%, then 1 point. So that's kind of the first one there. And then with community resiliency, we ask if the project is going to help mitigate hazards or it's going to help with adaptation to avoid future hazards. The social equity piece is aimed a little bit more internally, since a lot of our programs in I.C.A.R.E are for county operations. So they have to do with making sure we're including staff in the consultation of these projects and the development of them, and then also supporting cross-department partnerships. So as a team, we think it's really important that different departments are working together on these sustainability goals, because everyone has a different piece in it, and you might not think of everything as your own department, so we really encourage that. And then there's the environmental quality piece. Does it have benefits for the health and the environment of staff and sometimes county members, community members, depending on what the project is? And does it reduce greenhouse gases? And then the last piece we look at is the economic sustainability. We look at if it has a favorable cost-benefit ratio, and then if there's any outside funding or partnership. So you would get more points if you were able to work with a grant or had incentives or tax incentives. So that's another way the projects might come a little bit to the top, is if maybe it's a big ask for funding, but a lot of it's going to be given by another entity or a grant. Okay, any questions there before I go on to the sustainability awareness team? Okay, so a few slides here on our ESAT team, which is the E in I.C.A.R.E, so it's the education piece for sustainability here at the county. A couple things the team's been working on. This is a voluntary team. I just want to mention that this is usually on a lunch break. Employees, we have a few people from different departments that come and kind of give their ideas on how we can educate employees about sustainability here. So we had a Water Smart landscaping tour. Fort Collins put that on for county employees. It was over at their LaPorte building, and we went out to see kind of what they're doing for their landscaping over there, and how they're kind of like some things similar that we're doing at the county with different sprinkler systems and different native plants. And the employees were super interested, to learn about this for their own home gardens. And then we have a clean commuter series going on. You might have seen those in Inside Information. That just happens 3 months out of the year, 2 employees for each month, and this is the second year doing it. And employees usually are pretty excited that they got nominated by a coworker, that they've noticed that they ride their bike to work or they walk. So that's been kind of cool to get employees highlighted in the newsletter. And then we have a B board page and an Absorb, where there's different webinars and videos that we have on there. So when we did we did a virtual webinar on Transport and Colt and the other bus systems in the area, and so that one was recorded and we put it on there for employees to watch later. And then we have an Eco Edition newsletter that was started last year, so that's separate from Inside Information. It's just an every other month newsletter just about sustainability, internal climate work, and then some different events that are happening in the community relating to climate. And that has 70 employee subscribers now. And then I mentioned the EV Ride and Drive and EV Essentials earlier. The below picture in this slide is when we had the EV Ride and Drive. That was at 200 Peridot in Loveland. And we had 6 different electric vehicles there for employees to test out. And then with Inside Information, once a month, we put in an article about sustainability, or something with like ice melt, or ways that you can thrift clothing or something like that. So there have been 14 of those created. And then the next little event that the ESAT team is working on is, which you'll see in Inside Information this week, is hosting a clothing swap. So Health and Environment had a clothing swap for their department, and it went really well. Employees brought in clothes, and they were able to get like kind of a wardrobe upgrade without spending money or going to the store. So that went well for them, and we're going to offer it to other offices if they want the ESAT team to help them plan a clothing swap. So with just a few minutes left here, I wanted to go to our website really quick and show just how this is looking. If it will come up, we'll see. I don't know. If there's multiple pages. Oh, it doesn't. I see. Let me move it to here. I don't know. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. That's okay. So we have a website update with all those statuses that I mentioned earlier. So on our sustainability webpage, the public can now see our internal climate plan, the goal statuses, and then all of the different goals within that, as well as our greenhouse gas emissions inventory for the internal operations.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We don't have a lot of time because we have back-to-back work sessions. So I will just say, really appreciate the work that you're doing. Really grateful to the ESAT group that are volunteering their time to help us figure this out, because that's really important. And so we're grateful that people spend, their free time kind of helping us figure some of this work out. And then just wanted to really say that this is a way that we can show as a county that we're also committed. So we're not just asking our community to make changes and help with climate change. We're demonstrating how we as a county are doing that work. And so I think that this is really great for us to put that out there and saying, you know, we're practicing what we're preaching and that we're all kind of in this together. And so I love that. I love the I.C.A.R.E program because of that. So thank you very much. Lorinda, any closing words?
I guess I want to congratulate Abby. We had good information the last time we talked about the I.C.A.R.E program, and the way that it has just exploded, the excitement, the way that you're supporting it is really critical. It doesn't work without a leader, and you have been a very strong leader in this area. So thank you for what you've done and for the whole team. I think everyone is leading their own area, but someone has to manage the calendar. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so it's 2:25, and we'll adjourn now, and we'll thank you for your work, and sorry we didn't get to ask more questions or participate more with you all, but we need to transition to the new group that's coming in and starting at 2:30. Thank you, everyone.